I bought my first house when I was 21. How old were you?
23.
And you bought 2 houses?
3.
3 houses? Tell me another state where like 21, 23, 24-year-olds are buying houses. Like that's not like normal.
Let's see how you do under pressure. Yeah, I've been wanting this.
I feel like this is the only genuine conversation I have like all week.
Myself up, moving on to the better.
Welcome back to the Willpower podcast, guys. Today's super special for me. It was kind of last minute, but I have Jorden and Jen here, who you guys might have seen Jorden in the past before. He is pretty much my right-hand guy. I've known him since we were 15. We've been working together for how long now? Doing mortgages, 5 years. And Jen has been part of our team as well for the last 4 years, 4.5 years to be exact. Yeah. And so I thought, hey, last time I told you guys I was going to be doing a little bit more solo podcasts. It was my first solo podcast, and you guys got to know me a little bit better. So I figured, hey, before we really kick off the year with having new people come on, and then maybe other solo podcasts are going to add value to the listeners, why not bring the team, do a little recap of how my main business went, which is doing home loans for people, and then you guys can kind of get to know the team a little bit. So thank you so much, guys, for coming on. I know that part of the reason that we work together so well is because we're opposites. And so whenever I went in there, Jorden, you told me last time that whenever I asked you to come in last time, you were like, I did it because I didn't want to do it. And then Jen really didn't want to do it. So thank you for coming on. And I was looking right here, and I got in the business in 2018. I've been able to help over 800 families. I'm like pushing for the 1,000 number, over 1,000. And I was taking a look at here since we've been together since we moved over. And together we've been able to close 611 deals. So we've helped 611 families for about 121 million. So it's been a ride, guys. So let's talk a little bit about 2024. I know a lot of people out there, agents and lenders, think that, it was just not a good year. We can somewhat agree to that, but tell me kind of your experience and kind of like what you're maybe seeing for 2025.
For 2024, it didn't feel like a down year for me. I feel like 2022 was the year that was like where all the adjustment was happening. So like it felt like every day was a battle. And then I feel like 2023, we started to get things on track, put some new stuff into place that made us more efficient and offered more. And then 2024, it was a great year. And the numbers, when you're comparing the numbers to 2020 and 2021, it kind of can make you feel like it's down, but I mean, it's just a good solid year, I feel like.
Jen, what about you?
I feel like the same way. Like I feel like it was a roller coaster of a year, but I think the amount of families we helped, I feel like it just felt like such a special year. I don't know, for some reason this year it felt different, but still so many families still bought homes, and I think the fact that they were still grateful no matter what the rates were at or whatever. But I feel like it was just such a special year overall. So
talk to me about. I feel like I feel the reason why I'm able to kind of keep doing what I'm doing is because there's different things that come into my life that remind me why I do what I do. And actually, it's funny, last time I talked about the 3 things of what you need to do to be successful in 2025, and that is you gotta be adaptable, be willing to do things that you never done, that you don't want to do, be able to sacrifice, and you have to be able to know your why. And so I think of you, Jen, you deal with a lot. I mean, we said some numbers. One of the things that I can point out is I think what has made us successful is that we're super adaptable. I mean, look at when we started year 1 to year 2. I mean, it hasn't been the same every single year. Like, we've constantly changed. One of the changes that we've done is our team kind of grew a little bit. So you guys are able to not only work on our deals, but work on, different deals as well too. So you guys probably touch more than 600 files in the time that you've been here. But the reason I'm saying that is because a lot of the times these can just seem like numbers, right? Whether it's a good month or a bad month. But you recently had a really special closing, and we got to help your aunt.
My aunt.
Talk to me about that, because I feel like I could even see it from afar. We didn't have like really like a deep down discussion, but I could tell that it just like meant a lot to you.
Yeah, so she first reached out to, she actually came to Oklahoma for my sister's graduation, and she loved it. And she lives in California, and she works 2 jobs. She doesn't own any real estate, and she reached out to me wanting to get applied. So she did apply, but her credit score wasn't where it was to get approved for a house. So I told her what she needed to do to get her credit up. She did that exactly, and like 3 months later, we reran her credit. Her credit was where we needed it to be, and we got her approved, and she found her dream home, which, I mean, she loves it, and she was just so grateful. And I think that's another reason why, it's so special, because she didn't think she could do it, and she did. So I think that's the satisfaction in that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but she still hasn't even seen the house
She has
in
not
person.
seen the house. She has not seen the house in person.
So I wanted to bring that up for you to like, because those are the little things that we need to in our life, in our career, to be able to make sure that it reignites the motivation inside of us to do what we do. But anybody that's listening that lives in Oklahoma, there's people in California that like she could have never afford to buy the same house that she bought here in California, let alone the credit score and all that stuff, that she is willing to sacrifice. First of all, put in the work, because Jorden, I mean, how many people have we helped that have had credit issues that we put on credit game plans? Like
that
just
we've
an
actually
estimate.
closed.
That we've actually closed, and then give me another number of like people that, let's say, we're still helping that can potentially close.
I mean, I would say we have 500 to 700 people that are on credit game plans, and probably closed 4.
And then there's so many more. I mean, we just told you guys about the people that we have gotten the privilege to close. I mean, 2024 alone, we had over 600 leads, which were 600 people that came to us that were like, we want to buy a house. Can we do it? And a lot of those people could have been on credit game plans, but they didn't want to put in the work. So first of all, she put in the work to be able to get to where she was at. Not to mention it was a second home, so it's even harder guidelines to get through. And but she like even was willing to sacrifice to buy a house she has never seen, to be able to just have. I mean, I remember talking to her. I didn't really get to talk to her until the Thursday updates, but she was just super grateful. Yeah. And it was just so like it's a reminder for anybody that lives here in Oklahoma. Like we have it so. I mean, I bought my first house when I was 21. How old were you?
23.
And you've bought 2 houses.
3
houses. And Jen, how old were you?
I think I was 24.
24. Like, tell me another state where like 21, 23, 24-year-olds are buying houses. Like that's not like normal. So anybody that's listening that's been thinking, hey, maybe this is the year. It's like, let's turn that maybe to like, let's go ahead and buy that house to be able to start that equity and everything. So Jorden, what are some other things that you kind of saw in 2024 that you think that got us to do the year that we did?
So we explored some different programs. And so a lot of people have come to us in the past with the USDA Rural Development Loan. And, the objective is hard because the debt to income limits are really strict and the income limits. But we just kind of dove into that more this year. And, I think I did 6 of them, which in prior years, I don't think we did any. So each one of those felt like a big win. We also got some new information on VA loans, about approving manual underwrites, which, typically in our industry, we try to stay away from because, they're harder to get approved, but found out that they're easier than we think. So those closed 2 of those. Never closed them before, so that just felt like a big win. I felt like I could pretty much do anything after that. So, yeah.
I remember this one time that all 3 of us were here, and the reason for a team is so that way we can be more efficient and we can not all be working on the same thing at one time. So if all three of us are working on the same thing, it's probably not good news. So one time we were here, it was like 6 p.m. And I'm not going to say the name, but I think you guys know what file I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That was a VA loan.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about like, because I think that there's also, I want to do this as a recap, but then I also like, there's people that I talk to constantly that don't think that they could ever buy a house, but it's like, we help people that probably shouldn't be buying houses sometimes and I say that with like, we're still doing everything legal. Like we're still following all the guidelines and everything, but like we're helping them buy a house. So both of you chime in, because I know that you guys, were a huge help to getting this deal closed, but this was a VA deal, so this isn't for everybody like that. But talk to me about like how we qualified this guy whenever like everything was stacked against us.
So I mean, he had no money, he had derogatory accounts, and we just kind of just worked on one thing after another until we did letter of explanations for delinquent accounts, which he had legitimate reasons why things were late, because that's something that we see like every day is people are like, they have explanations for why things went wrong, and people are just people. Things happen. There's medical issues, sometimes it's just being irresponsible, but a lot of times it's real things. But how do you think we worked through that file? What ended up? So what was like the climax of the issue to where we were just like, we thought we were done? So we had an approval to begin with, and then we lost the approval.
Was it that he wasn't working full 40 hours? Or I might be just saying that. As you guys think on that, anybody listening that he didn't have any money, people are like, well, how did he get a house? So first of all, a VA loan does not require a down payment. Also, the loan that you were talking about, a USDA loan, which you don't have to be a veteran, doesn't require a down payment. The only thing on that, the caveat on that is that you can only buy it in certain areas, which mostly rural areas. And anytime we have a buyer that we can qualify with zero money down, we, if they're working with a good agent, we can say, hey, they need closing costs. And depending on the program, you're able to ask for all the closing costs. So that's how we're able to help this guy go in with zero money down.
He got his earnest money back at closing.
Yeah. So Jen helps us out really. She's a big part of like sort of kind of like towards the back end. You work a lot with the processors, which a lot of people, and you guys have heard me say this time and time again, but it takes 35 to 40 people to close one loan. So, the three of us, if we close a loan, most of the time, everybody is talking to us, seeing our name at least. And, but we're also working with other people like processors, underwriters and stuff. So Jen, do you remember like on the back end, like what that was, or like what ended up, happening that it just made this hard file even harder?
I feel like the main thing I can remember is because it was referred, we had to get a verification of rent, but he lived like on base.
Oh,
and
that's
that
what
one
it
was like
That's
super
what
hard
it was.
to get. That's what I can remember. I think he had to write a letter. I'm not sure if we had to get anything from like, I just remember that big part. And we were like, I feel like it was like, once we found a solution, it was like, oh no, like we had to find another solution for something else. I just feel like everything just kept going wrong with that file. And
you almost thought you were doing a loan for another team member or something, right? I'm not gonna say any names or anything.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I guess I can say his name. Our lovely Daniel.
Yes.
Daniel,
yes.
she called you out. That wasn't me. I was trying to keep you anonymous. What are other things that you think that people think like I can't buy a house because X, Y, or Z that we've seen or we see more often?
Like people that can actually qualify don't think that they have credit, which they do have. Like they're like, my credit's not great, and then I pull credit and it's like in the high 600s, which we would consider that moderate to good credit. Another thing is funds. The biggest thing I would say is they think they have to have 20% down,
which is crazy to me. I guess it's crazy to me because I work in this industry, but it's like, for example, like Destiny got a new car last year, 2023. So 2 years ago, I guess now. I guess I was supposed to get tires rotated every 5,000 miles. I don't know if you guys knew this. I didn't know this. Car now has like 20,000 miles, and I just now got the tires rotated, which is like, you don't know what you don't know, to where it's crazy to us. Like, how do you still think that you need 20% to buy a house? But it's like, if you're not part of this industry, like, you have no idea. So how many people do you think still think that we talk to?
I would say 15% of people still think we need 20%. It's hard because, on the contrary, you have people who think they should be able to be approved with no money down and with low credit. And so it's the people that can qualify typically think they can't, and the people that can't qualify think they can.
100%. We have a client meeting today with the people that were looking at USDA, which they make too much money to qualify for USDA. They have money, and their credit score is 800. And it's like, these are people that I can already tell that they probably didn't think that they could afford to buy a house, and they have all the options in the world.
Oh, yes.
So one of the other new things, reflecting back on 2024, that we did that were new, were newsletters. And Jen, you were a huge part of that. Anybody listening, whether you're an agent or you're a past client, you've probably seen some of these. And so talk to me a little bit about that, Jen, because I feel like mainly on the agent one, I'm the one that's like coming up with the content. You're helping me send it out, but you really have taken ownership of the past client ones, and we're adding value to people by either one, letting them know a good idea of where rates are at for the week. Of course, rates are a loaded question, so by the time we send that email, they might have already changed. And of course, these are national rates that we're showing. So, but then for past clients, we're showing them, hey, this is what you could do this weekend in Tulsa. So talk to me about that. Like, what motivated you to maybe go all in on that, be consistent on that, and then just kind of walk me through the process of just like, any responses you've had or anything like that.
I think the main part of it, like you said, is adding value to them, but also kind of just being in front of them. I feel like you said, you don't know what you don't know. So if there's some information in there that, maybe a client was thinking about but didn't really know and wants to reach out, then I think that's the main purpose of it. But, it's mostly just to give them some value and some fun to do in Tulsa. And
the other thing that we forget is, like, the thing I have to do every single year. It's like, hey, if you get this tax statement, you don't have to pay your taxes. So many people call freaking out. They're like, I thought you said my taxes were going to be paid, and I'm getting this. And it's like, yeah, you're not supposed to be paying that. It's just for your records, right? So just different things like that. I mean, it's been good because the open rate has been, way higher than what the target was. So really, really appreciate you being a part of that. And hopefully anybody that's been, opening them, it's been adding value to them, and hopefully getting them and their family out to, events. Are most of those events free, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Most of them are all free.
Yeah, that's how much I know about those events that go out. And how many are you sending a week? Like events?
Like how many are happening?
I mean, I guess it's different per week, but on average, I feel like there's like
5 or 6, and I send for
really?
like Friday and Saturday. Yeah. So there's some that are free, but there's also some that cost, but I mean nothing crazy.
Yeah. And Jorden, what are some things that you see that 2025, like we talked about, we're adaptable, we've changed every single year. What are some things that you're kind of seeing as far as what we need to do to be able to keep doing what we're doing, reach our goals, and then just like anything that you're seeing in the market as well too, because you're just as versed on the market as I am too. So
I think that how we're going to grow this year is becoming more efficient, and having each player play their role how they should. There's always a lot of room for improvement on efficiency, because we have the resources, and so to be able to, up our communication, I think, especially I speak for myself, up my communication is going to help serve our clients and help us get more loans. As far as the market, I don't mind it just holding steady with rates. I think they will. I think we might see a little bit of decrease. But, you know, I've looked over the last couple of years. We had, you know, lower rates parts of 2023 than we do now. And so I like the market staying steady just so that we're not having to overcome tons of objectives with like, why are rates not lower? Like in 2022, nearly every client I helped was like, why is the rate so high? To where now, I mean, in 2024, I may have been asked that 5 to 10 times. So people have adjusted. They understand rates are higher, but we've come up with creative solutions to, you know, help people buy the rate down and get to where they need to be. So
talking about not knowing what you don't know. So I think all of us, and with the maybe a little bit exception of Jen, we bought our first home before we were ever in the mortgage business, right? So I don't know about you guys, but whenever I got approved, the first thing that I thought to look at was the rate. I'm like, what rate am I getting, right? I didn't really know what I was doing. Jorden, you bought your first house before you got in.
Yeah.
And then Jen, funny story of how she ended up working with us. She was actually a referral from an agent, and her husband ended up coming in, which it was like the craziest thing. Like it was during COVID time, and he had broken his leg or something like that.
No, he tore his meniscus.
There you go. I mean, close enough, right? I don't even know where the meniscus is at, but is that your knee?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. So, yeah, close enough. Leg, knee. And so he's like hobbling in here to get his docs in. And then I start telling him that we might be looking for somebody. And then he's asking me more and more questions. And then he says, I think I might have somebody. And I'm like, who? And he says, my wife. And then so you started working with us right around the time when you were closing on your first house. So, but let's talk about, like I just said, my first thing was like, what's the rate? What were some questions that went through your head when you were buying your first house, when you were not in the business doing mortgages? Do you guys remember?
Well, one of the good things was that I had no concerns about underwriting. Like I thought, like I have good credit, so I'll get approved. I didn't think about income, debt to income. I didn't think about money, how much was needed, anything like that. But yeah, I was looking at terms, mainly like how long the loan terms were. I was thinking it would be, a 15-year term, and most mortgages are 30 years. So, but I looked at the rate too. But the rate at the time in 2018 or 17, they were decent. So I didn't think much about it.
So you were one of those buyers that were like you're like, I should be approved no matter what.
Yeah.
Because you were just looking at one thing, which it was credit.
Yes.
Jen, what about you?
I think for me, I wasn't really concerned about everything. Honestly, I think Nick was the one that was most concerned, which when I started, I remember he got the closing disclosures and was just like, we need to read all of this, and we need to make sure like everything looks right. I'm like, no, like just sign it. I'm like, they're not going to do anything to like hurt you. Like, I feel like, I don't know why, I feel like sometimes mortgage lenders get bad reps of like, they're only doing it to like get more money out of me, or, so I think he sort of thought like that, but I was like, just sign them. I'm like, I don't know if it was because I was working there, but I was just like, they're not going to do anything to like, they're going to get you the
you were
best.
already working here.
Yeah. And I was like, you're going to get like, they're giving you the best, the best loan possible. So I think just sign them. So he did. But
How many people do you think read those disclosures?
I
know I didn't read any house I've ever closed on.
I would say less than 10% of people read disclosures.
I was gonna say less. I was gonna say maybe 1%.
Yeah.
How many pages on the initial disclosures?
It's like 82 to 88, depending on the type of loan.
So the reason I'm asking that is because I feel that we often forget that so many people, like, they're just clinging on to like the one thing that they understand. One of the things that we changed, which we've gotten more consistent over 2024, which I'm hoping that it's sticks, and is client appointments, client presentations, even if they're over Zoom.
Yeah.
And I want both of you guys to kind of go over a little bit of what we go through in that client presentation, because I feel like it's basic stuff to us, but it also there's like a before and after for most buyers that end up doing this, because it's mostly like, if you were like, hey, these people are trying to take advantage of me, or this other person that's like, I should be approved no matter what. You have a completely different perspective of the process after we're done with that presentation because you're maybe educated a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the things that you can think of at the top of your head that we go over in that presentation to be able to educate the buyers?
First, it's personalized, and I think that's important. Just like they're not like another number, like we're personalizing this to them. The numbers specifically reflect to this personal client. There's education in there about how to grow wealth. That's one of the first steps that we do, and that's before we ever go over loan details. And then there's real estate information about how your home will appreciate over time. Next, there's talks about what it looks like to pay rent and how you're paying essentially 100% interest. And then we give them loan scenarios. Some people don't know that they even need loan scenarios, but we're educating them on that and showing them that, like, well, you do this and we can get it lower. And we find out what their goals are, and then we try to build a loan to where they feel comfortable with the payment, feel comfortable with the cost to close. And again, just education towards the end as well, to where they're just getting a kind of a full value there.
Jen, what about you? Is there anything that pops out on that?
I don't really do client presentations, but I feel like when I do meet with clients, I feel like they feel like I think it's more personal for them. Like, for example, I met with a client yesterday because he needed to come in to get an application. So I took his application, and then we kind of talked about, kind of what he needed to do to get approved. And I think that felt more personal to him. And he was just really grateful, even though he wasn't approved at the moment. But I think he was just grateful that I took the time to sit there with him and get his application and kind of tell him what he needs to do for the future.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people maybe that are listening, they're like, what do you mean personal to them? Because isn't it every deal going to be different per person? But I think what we're talking about, so people can understand, is most lenders, including myself, my first 2 years that I was doing this, I would get an application, and then if it was approved, we would send a pre-qualification letter, send cost sheet, and then cool, you're approved. Let me know when you're going to contract. But that wasn't really educating them. It wasn't really teaching them hey, this is why you should buy sooner rather than later. Because a lot of the times you talk about the terms, people are still scared of being in debt for 30 years. But what they're not looking at is that every single year you're not only paying your loan off, but every single year your home value is going up, to where if you do have that loan for even 10 years, and most people don't have that loan for 30 years. They're either going to refinance or sell the home and then buy, a better home that they could have never afforded the first time. And so I think that people, the personalized touch that you guys are talking about, it's more than just hey, you're approved for this amount because you make this much, and you're approved for this amount, or you're not approved because of what the application says. But it's actual education of hey, whether you're ready now or whether you buy now or you might not buy for 12 months, this is what's going to look like whenever you get on that path of wealth through real estate. So what are some goals that you guys have that you would want to share, personal or within our work?
One of my goals is to pray with my son every single day this year. And so actually on the first, I almost forgot. I was almost asleep. And
the first day?
Yeah. Yeah. And then so my son, he, for whatever reason, he's prayed and his prayers don't initially get answered. And so he's frustrated by praying, which makes me think, it's important to do that. Something I changed about the way I prayed is I prayed that I would get to spend time with him, and he didn't, because he typically will literally interject in my prayers and be like, that's dumb, Dad, don't pray that. So, but when I said that, I was like, I pray that Landon and I have a fun day tomorrow. And then it was silence. And then the next day he didn't reject the prayer. So that was one of my goals. next goal is to hit 16 CrossFit workouts
There you go.
a
Well,
month.
8 of them in the morning.
8 of them in the morning. And then I want to do some home improvements this year as well.
There we go. Jen, what about you?
I think my main goals is just kind of really to just better myself as a person and also get licensed. I know I've been saying this for many, many years, but I am done just pushing it to the side, and I'm going to get licensed this year, and I know that.
So
for
what
a
are we
fact.
talking about? I mean, can we put it on the schedule in January?
To get licensed in January?
No, at least take the test.
Oh, to take the test in January?
Yeah,
We're in January.
Yeah. I mean, or what day?
I
mean,
want to
you
do
gotta
it. I want to do it before my birthday for sure.
February.
So in February, so the end of February. So my goal is to do it before my birthday.
Okay.
I think before March, just because of how things ramp up.
I want to do it before, for sure. But
Yeah.
that's my main one.
But also after we get a couple difficult files closed that we have this month. So.
We have difficult files.
Aw.
I don't think people realize the amount of effort that goes into once we get a deal to get it to the closing table.
It's an emotional roller coaster.
For
And
sure.
I think we have some new guys on the team, and they're even seeing how they're like addicted to like trying to make something work, and how it goes up and down and up and down, and it's a lot of highs and lows.
Yeah.
And you kind of learn your stress threshold goes up as time goes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, thank you guys for coming on and, doing this last minute. I hope that anybody listening learned a little something, and excited for a new year with you guys, and keep tuning in the rest of the year. I was telling everybody that after we hit 100, it was kind of like anytime you have a goal, it's harder to honestly keep going after that, rather than like. That's why I always say, like, I don't have goals. Like, I'm just trying to create new habits, because if you say, like, I want to do 100 episodes, then after that, you're like, okay, cool. Like, I'm done. Right. So, excited to kind of keep, bringing more of these, and hopefully have even more consistency in 2025. So thanks for coming on, guys.
Yeah.
See how you do under pressure. Yeah, I've been wanting this.
I feel like this is the only genuine conversation I have like all week.
Myself up, moving on to the better.